Now, stage 1 was a little bit complicated, but stage 2 will be a little simpler, so we can move on a little faster through this. Now, in stage 2 is when you demonstrate that you've actually did your homework of level 1, which is actually flipping and going home and studying. Now, remember, you didn't have to do all the things we talked about. You could have just chosen to do whatever you thought was necessary, but the point is, when you feel you're ready and you did a reading check, the website will activate the option for you to take the quiz, and then you can take this quiz. Now, there are several ways that you can do this. You can demonstrate the mastery. Now, the standard way is to pass the mastery quiz. Now, basically, this is a Moodle quiz, all right, where you have to have at least 80% or above in the quiz in order to pass the level. So it's going to have 10 questions. You've got to get 8 questions right. If you do get the 8 questions right, you move on. If not, you have to take the quiz again. And this is a time quiz. You only have 10 minutes for 10 questions. And so if you take too long, you're not going to be able to do well. And in some cases, I might even make less time, 5 minutes for 10 questions, depending on if it's a multiple choice quiz or something like that. And so it's a time quiz. Now, it focuses on the topic goals and the key terms on the topic guide. So it's very important, like I said at the beginning, for you to go over those lecture guides and make sure that you know all the goals that you're supposed to know and all the key terms you're supposed to know. And the quiz may include 1 or 2 higher order questions that you sometimes it will include material that's considered advanced, especially in the honors level classes. At least 1 to 2 questions will always be extremely challenging questions. All right, but on the regular class, I usually don't go that much. All right. But it may include critical thinking questions. Now, students are allowed to retake the quiz as many times as they want. It's the good part of the master system. You can't really fail this quiz, because even if you don't pass it, you just take it again and again and again. However, the questions are randomized each time, and there's a huge data bank of questions. So every time you take the quiz, it's a different quiz. Now, you may be lucky and get the same question you got before, but in most cases, that's not going to be the case. And so you really have to know the material. You can't just keep trying to take the quiz to pass it. You probably will never pass if you do it that way. You really have to try to study. And that's the whole point of that. Besides, if you somehow cheat your way through the quiz, and pass through the quiz without actually doing the studying part, once you get to the practice level, you're going to have to cheat again because you're not going to know what you're doing. And once you pass the topic, because you cheated the way through the topic, once you get to the unit test, you forget about it. You're not going to pass it. So rather than cheating your way through it just to get through it, it's really important that you actually do what you got to do to learn it and pass the quiz. Otherwise, you're eventually going to get caught at the end. And remember, especially if you're taking a course that has an EOC at the end of the year, if you cheat the learning, you probably cheat the quiz, you probably cheat the practice, you probably cheat the topic, you probably cheat the unit test, and then what happens when the EOC comes in? You can't cheat that. And then you have to repeat the course. Because if you fail the EOC, you fail biology. And so classes like that, it's very important. This system is designed to prepare you for the reality of things, which is this test is going to be everything. And so you must take this quiz seriously. All right? You cannot pass the quiz or continue towards level 3 until you pass this quiz. And so if you don't pass it, you have to continue to do individualized work or work with a teacher or work with peers so that you can review over and over again until you pass the quiz. And you will not be allowed to do any of the practice tests that the other people are doing in class and earn points for that until you pass the quiz. You cannot learn level 3 points or stage 3 points until you pass the quiz. Okay? Now, the quiz is available at home too. So ever since I have the Moodle site, before I used to have a paper quiz with answers submitted through Google Forms, but it was very hard to manage that. So now I have the Moodle quiz, and so you can technically, after you do the reading check, you can go ahead and try to take the quiz at home, so that you don't even have to waste time with that in class or compete for computers or any of that stuff. So you can do this at home if you want to as well. All right. So you're going to come to class, you're ready to engage in the activities that we're going to be doing for that day. All right. Now, on option 2, I encourage everybody to do option 1 because of the EOC at the end of the year. You got to get used to passing tests, okay? But I don't want someone to get stuck in the class and not progress with the master system just because they can't pass the quiz. So you have option 2, which is if time permitting, or after school, or online, if we have a video conference, you can do what I call an oral examination. Where you must attain at least 75% of the rubric points in order to pass. So basically it's an oral exam which focus on the students explaining each of the objectives on the targets, objective target for that section. So the topic guide will list the objectives. You got to make sure that as a student you can address and explain each one of those objectives. And if you do this, you can probably pass the oral quiz. Now, if you want to do that, you must have and bring the oral topics goal tracking with you so that you can do that. And I think that the Moodle site may have an option for that, for you can do that online. But basically, you must prove that you've passed it. So you can't just take the quiz orally. You got to bring the oral topic goals tracking worksheet filled up. You already wrote the unit on the top, the topic, the date, the objective sections that you can that must be completed, and then you take the oral quiz. All right. Now, the oral quiz will be based on rubric points, all right, where you have to demonstrate conceptual understanding of the objectives. You have to use proper terminology, vocabulary, or key terms. You have to be fluent. You can't be like, I think it's this, stuff like that. And I also give bonus points if you use applications, evaluations, or relevance as you describe the topic. And also for clarity. If I can't understand what you're talking about, and if someone who's completely unknowledgeable biology would be completely clueless about what you're talking about, it's probably because you can't really understand it. When you're ready for an oral quiz, it means that you actually can explain it to someone who doesn't know it. So that's the clarity. Now, each of these things is rated, and depending on how many points you get for all of them, if you get 75% of the rubric points, you pass. Now, that's the oral quiz, but remember, I can only do this if I'm available in class, if I'm not busy, or after school, or on students' own time, lunch, before school, after school, or online if I'm also available for a video conference, which you can schedule on sometimes. Okay. Now, on special arrangements only, students can also choose to demonstrate their learning to the completion of a project. All right. This is not going to be like a simple worksheet or like an assignment. All right. It's going to be a very complicated project that you have to discuss with me to prove that you learned the material. Now, for example, students may bypass the quiz based on completion of all the things that you have to do in level 1, plus the project. I will make it very hard for you to pass on option 3. So because I really do want you to take that quiz, or at least the oral test. Okay. But remember, you must discuss this with the teacher, and it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. Now, AP students, about AP Biology, also have the option of completing 81% of the Mastering Biology portal questions with at least 64% of the possible points earned. So that means that you have to get 64% of the questions correctly and complete at least 81% of the questions of the Mastering Biology portal for that unit in order for you to actually earn the grade for it. All right. Now, as an incentive to prevent students from, just trying to pass the Moodle quiz or exam, or without, actually having studied first, every time you attempt the quiz, you may lose, depending on whether or not I have that option activated, 5 to 10% of the maximum points that the quiz was worth. So let's say, for example, you were going to get 50 mastery points for the quiz. Because you attempted for the second time, you will only get 49 or 48 and so forth, Nevertheless, there's always a minimal, so you can never drop below the minimal. So the minimal is always 70% of the points, so you're never going to lose more than minimal than that. So after you try a certain number of times, you stop losing points. But if you want to get the maximum number of points so you can master the topic quicker, it's more important to try not to just try to take the quiz for the hell of it. You have to really know what you're talking about before you attempt the quiz. So that's stage 2, where you prove that you learned on stage 1 and that you did your homework, basically. All right, and then you got to go to the stage 3, which was what the class is all about. I'll see you guys there.